This is a detailed engineering model of a three-man space station or space laboratory proposed by General Dynamics Astronautics. It stands outside. It now is being used for ground studies, employing men and machines to work out the exact environment that man must take with him into space if he intends to penetrate deeply into space. I am standing on a balcony outside what is known as Compartment 2 of this space station, and inside is Dr. Kraft Ehricke, one of this nation's outstanding space scientists and technologists, and now Director of Advanced Planning for GDA. Dr. Ehricke, just when, in point of time, do you think a space station such as this will actually be launched in relation to our present space projects?
I believe it will be launched in 1964 or early 1965. However, the launching of a small space laboratory such as this one will have to be preceded by the launching of a somewhat larger Mercury capsule, one for two people, such as is known as the Project Gemini, that is presently planned by NASA. But eventually, before we go to the moon, we have to experiment in a space laboratory of a type like you see it here.
Well, you know, it seems like awfully close quarters for a 3-week trip, Dr. Ehricke, but I suppose this is the basic idea for spaceships of the future.
Yes, this is true. This station essentially simulates the conditions as the people will experience them on the flight to the moon and back, which takes about 5 days. An interplanetary spaceship will definitely have much larger living quarters.
But now I gather some problems can be worked out in the matter of space environment here in a station of this sort on the ground, but some problems must be solved in space, isn't that right?
Yes, this is very true, Mr. Peterson. For example, zero-G condition as a weightlessness condition, the separation from the Earth, the existence in a vacuum environment have to be tried out with all the exact radiation conditions, with the exact conditions of meteoritic danger and so forth, have to be tried out in orbit. In other words, the people have to have flight experience before they can go to the moon.
So we have to go beyond, certainly, the Mercury project before we can go deep into space. Tell me, where do you think the Russians now stand in relation to our progress in space stations of this kind?
Well, this is difficult to assess at the moment. They haven't done anything outwardly during the last few months. The vehicle with which Titov flew is definitely considerably larger than the one than the Mercury capsule itself. The Russians haven't done anything in the recent past. I believe they are now trying to establish a orbital flight with several people on board.
But then we shouldn't be surprised if they do something very shortly.
That is right.
Well, Dr. Ehricke, there is some room for optimism, isn't there, despite this Russian progress?
Oh, by all means. After all, we must not lose sight of the main goals in space flight, and the main goal in the near future is a lunar landing. And I don't see us losing this one yet.
And how important is this in relation to the whole space endeavor?
Well, it is a stepping stone to interplanetary flight, and it will be also the stepping stone to a more and higher developed orbital technology between Earth and Moon.
Thank you. Coming from you, Dr. Ehricke, that's very encouraging. Elmer Peterson, NBC News, San Diego.
But there are even more fantastic developments just over the space horizon, and we will be looking at some of these in just a moment.